Okay, here we go. The Pen and Maggie Show.
He's about to get crazy and wild. Stay for a while. Don't touch your radio dial.
The Maggie Show.
Kicking it back. Sports talk. Listen to that and stay tuned for some giggles and laughs. Go.
Clint Eastwood is directing you.
It's crazy because his sets are so quiet. I mean, even folks who haven't, worked as actors, they know that when you're on the set, quiet on set, action, let's go, cut. And Clint isn't like that at all. He's just like, okay, go.
That sounded like him.
Welcome to the Planet Mikey Show.
That sounded like him. The only line I ever learned from Clint Eastwood was the guy in the elevator where he says, "You nothing but dog shit to me." Remember he's telling that guy Dirty Harry, right? Right. And Mike O'Malley, who's our guest today, we're going to introduce him in just a moment here. But first, the sponsors, because without the sponsors, my car doesn't get fixed. Brought to you by Pro Automotive.
If you've got trouble with your car, truck, or SUV, Pro Automotive is who to see. Pro Automotive.
And Pro Automotive FM. In Webster and Dudley, Massachusetts, they're the best and very professional. And my grandma's coffee cake, which is the greatest coffee cake in the world, it's the coffee cake of the stars. And that's why we're going to give Mike O'Malley out in Hollywood his own coffee cake. We're going to ship it to him fresh, direct from New England, but more about that in a moment. Mike O'Malley is a very, very accomplished human being. Yes, he's from New Hampshire, and not that many people from New Hampshire are accomplished, but Mike O'Malley is. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Mike. Hey, listen, first, I want to talk about your sponsors because I love my grandma's coffee cake and Bob Cates.
Yes.
I want to tell this. I want to say this to all your listeners out there. I first met Bob Cates at Pitching In for Kids, which was a charity event that Tim Wakefield and Jason Veritek used to host. And Bob was always a great supporter. And Bob is a local guy who really is constantly giving back. And so just know, when you go out there, and the coffee cakes are unbelievable. There was a time, I think this, that Starbucks was serving their cake, and they wanted to make it a cheaper cake, and Bob was like, I can't make it a cheaper cake. I can't skip it. It is the greatest coffee cake you will ever eat
in the world, in the entire world. In fact,
and he stole it from his grandmother. He stole the recipe from his grandmother.
I heard he stole a lot of stuff from his grandmother. He dresses up, on weekends. He's a J. Edgar Hoover guy. No. Bob Cage is one of our good pals and been a sponsor for a long time. And every guest gets a cake. So you have to just tell me, do you want Granny Smith apple, blueberry, chocolate?
They're all good. There's a Ted Williams cake, isn't there?
Yes. You want one?
Ted Williams cake? But now I want to talk about the other sponsor that you have, because I've never heard doo-wop and what is it, hip hop combined in a jingle.
Well, in the neighborhood I come from, it happens all the time. It's a big thing there. But the neighborhood you come from is Nashua, New Hampshire. No, you were born in Boston, but you grew up in Nashua.
Yeah, so my dad's from Natick, and my mom is from Somerville and Belmont, and I was born at St. Elizabeth's in Brighton. And then when we were 3 years old, we moved up to Nashua, just over the border. And my parents are still there. I lived there, most of my whole life, and then went to the University of New Hampshire. And then when I graduated way back in 1988, I moved to New York. But it was great. It was great growing up. I had an amazing moment that happened to me recently, Mike, is that I was telling a story about how when I was 9 years old, I dressed up as Freddie Lynn. I dressed up as Freddie Lynn for Halloween.
19.
And I told this story about, the makeshift costume that I had to come up with, which the story ended basically in the fact that I couldn't find any wristbands. And my mother wasn't going to get me. And there wasn't a Dick's Sporting Goods that you could just go buy wristbands back in the day. And there was 4 kids in our family. She's like, you don't need the wristbands. I was like, all right, I'm going to go around the house. I'm going to find something that I can, make into wristbands. And I cut some cheesecloth. That didn't work. And then I found in my mother's bathroom something that was self-adhesive and
garter belt.
No. Say again.
A garter belt?
Wasn't a garter belt
from the wedding?
What? No. What it was? They were white. I wrapped them around my wrist. It was a little bit extra. I cut them off, and they were two maxi pads. And I went down, I didn't know what they were. And I went down the kitchen. I said, Mom, I found the perfect wristbands. And she's like, you know what, Mike? You've been a good kid for your birthday. We're going to take you to Geron's sporting goods store. We're going to buy you those sweatbands.
Because those were the last two maxi pads I had. That's why.
Well, hey, now listen, now you're insulting my mother. And so what happened is that she, so you can imagine 9-year-old kid going down there and realizing the O'Malley kid's going to stick his arms out at every house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
This kid, he's got stay-free maxi pads wrapped around his wrist. But anyways, I told that story, and Fred Lynn heard about it, and he tweeted back at me. He said, he's like, gosh, we would have been friends when we were younger. And I was like, oh God. So growing up in New England, somebody was calling me a front runner because I was at the gym the other day in a Patriots shirt. I said, no, man, the Patriots stunk when I was growing up. They stunk.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, back in the day. I go back to when I first started working at NECN. My job was to interview Hugh Millen.
Oh God!
He's like, and then he came in with his girlfriend, who was Lisa Guerrero, Lisa Coles, who was her name at the time. She was the head of the cheerleading squad.
Who didn't take her?
I know. So I just went right to her. Kept talking to her. The whole interview is live too.
Yeah, you're smart.
Yeah, I had to do that. Now, because you're a Nashua guy, I have compiled, Mike O'Malley, a Nashua quiz to see what you know about your hometown. All right.
All right.
So
let's hear it.
I hope you can hear me. Hold on, let me pull this.
I can hear you.
Hey, yo.
All right. Let's see what I can get. Let's see what I can answer.
The big Nash. By the way, John Dennis says hi. He says that he worked with you on Survivor's Remorse down in Georgia.
Yeah, I love John. What a great guy. What I love talking, to you and to John and folks from, way back when is, everyone was always so supportive of me, especially at EEI and just talking to folks about, what it is you're doing, and you're just trying to make any headway and get support for what you're doing. And I always had such great support from everybody.
Well, you've made a lot of headway. People that don't know about. Am I holding this up in front of my face?
You don't want to
I've done 2,000 hours of live television. I can't get this shit straight. Don't block your face from the camera, for God's sake.
You look good, Mike. I mean, what is that tapestry hiding? Is what I want to know.
Oh, there's a lot back there. That's where we keep the dogs and cats for when we have the Haitians come in from Ohio.
Jesus.
No, come on, I'm kidding. The Nashua quiz. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Famous people from Nashua. I'm going to say their name. You tell me what they're famous for. Ralph Baer, Baer. Ralph H. Baer. This is this is the hardest question of all.
Is he a singer?
He was an inventor.
I don't know him.
He invented the home
aspirin.
The home video game console.
Wow.
Yeah. Simon Electronic Games way back. Yeah. This guy invented him. He's dead, but he's a Nashua guy. All right.
You mean the Simon the memory game?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mike Lupica.
Mike Lupica is a sports writer. He went to Bishop Girton High School. Of course, I know him.
He did. You went to Bishop Girton as well.
Yes, I did.
That school, man, that's got a great reputation. Huh?
Once they got girls there.
VB went there. That's how it was with me at Avon Old Farms. That's why I got kicked out. I kept looking for girls. It was a boys' school. It was a terrible life. Mike Lupica, born in 1952, moved to Nashua when he was 12, and lived there for the rest of his life. Lived there until he went on to become New York guy, Mr. Writer guy. All right, Mandy Moore.
Oh, Mandy Moore is a singer actress.
Yep.
She's got to be about 20 years younger than me, though. I never
born
met her.
in 1984.
Yeah,
she's born
when I graduated from high school.
Yeah, so you might be her father. Who knows? Mandy Moore has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. When's yours coming up?
Well, I don't know. I think I got to murder somebody or something.
Does OJ have one?
He's got to have one. That's a good trivia question. How many murderers have?
Ooh, right.
Hold on, let me Google.
Hold on. We got a guy who Googles nothing but Google all day. He's going to Google that shit.
Fatty Arbuckle? Who else?
Did he kill? Okay.
That woman, right? With the thing.
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe was murdered. I think a lot of people agree on that. That overdose thing that didn't happen. Someone slipped her up.
You think she was murdered?
Yeah, I think someone slipped her a Mickey. Oh, okay. What?
Okay, so I just did a quick Google.
Yeah.
It says at least one murderer has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Spade Cooley, the band leader who beat his estranged wife to death in 1961. There you go. Well, everyone feel better about that now?
You wanted the answer, Mike.
I want to see a picture of what this guy looks like.
All right, famous people from Nashua. Mike O'Malley, we all know about him. Born 1966 on Halloween, and I know exactly where I was when you were born.
That's creepy.
I was trick or treating. I was 12. Of course, I was trick or treating, and smashing pumpkins in the neighborhood. That's in Manchester, Connecticut. Tim Neverett, are you familiar with him?
Not only am I familiar with Tim Neverett, I had lunch with him 4 days ago.
The Dodger announcer?
So Tim Neverett and I went to grade school together. I've known Tim since the first grade.
Oh.
His mother taught at St. Christopher's Elementary School. Tim, I wish Tim was still doing the Red Sox. But yes, he's had a great career, and he's been out doing the Dodgers for a while.
He got lucky this year. He got a championship out of it this time. So those are easy to do, championships. All you do is like Joe Castiglioke. Can you believe it?
Yeah, he had a great call of Shohei's 50th, I think.
You know who else was born in Nashua or is from Nashua? Bertie Tebbetts, old catcher for the Red Sox. He was at one time voted the Red Sox greatest catcher in their history of the franchise before Fisk, came to fruition. Bertie Tebbetts, player, coach, manager of 3 major league teams, Nashua.
I didn't
New
know.
Hampshire.
Let me see how many. Let me ask you this: how many more names are on your list? And let me see if I can guess them. How many more?
Okay. A couple. I got one. No,
let me try to guess what they are.
Okay, one more.
Triple H.
Yep.
Yes,
Paul Levesque.
Paul Levesque, next name on the list.
Yep. Also, Ray LaMontagne, the amazing singer-songwriter. If you don't know him, you should know him.
I know who he's really good. I didn't know he was from Nashua, but he's
sounds like
very
he's from
popular.
Canada or something with a name
But
like
how about Triple H, man? I think I might have met him when I was a kid, but I've not seen him, since.
You probably met lots of wrestlers. My Sports World show, we had a reputation for bringing in wrestlers. We had Chief Jay Strongwell. We had Killer Kowalski. I had The Rock on my show before he was famous.
Wow.
He was Rocky Malavia. We had George the Animal Steel. I loved the wrestlers on that show because I couldn't fill an hour.
and they can fill time.
Oh, they were great. They really helped that broadcast. And one other murdering related story: the husband of Pamela Smart was born in Nashua, New Hampshire. He was what was his name? Not so smart. His wife. His wife killed him, Pamela, and she's been in jail for 30 years. Right?
Did his wife do the killing, or did the kids do the killing?
Oh, well, she arranged. You're right. She arranged it, and her 15-year-old boyfriend did the deed. So yeah, you're right.
Terrible.
That's good. He's able to maintain the information better than I am.
Wait, did this become that movie?
Yeah,
with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Get Smart.
To Die For.
Get Smart with.
To Die For.
Now,
Joaquin Phoenix, young.
You've probably met, Mike, about 10,000 famous people with all your escapades in your life. Broadway, the theater, writing, producing, acting. Guest appearances on various shows. Who was the person in your career that you were the most thrilled to meet? Got to be one that stands out.
Well, that's a great question. I met Arthur Miller, the author of Death of a Salesman and The Crucible, but it was at a signing. So it was more like I was a fan. And what was funny is that I had gone back, look, everyone who starts off, they want to be an actor. Many times they want to be a serious actor. They all want to be in dramatic stuff, right? Because the comedic stuff, although it deserves a lot of respect, I mean, you've made a living being funny for a long, long time. It's harder to do. And it is true. Death is easy. Comedy is hard. That famous quote, that is true. Because people are very critical of what makes them laugh or not laugh. But Arthur Miller, was a guy, when you read these he didn't write just one great work, he wrote several. And so we flew across the country, my wife and I. This is before we had children, and we went to this book signing. And there at this New York Times Festival of Books, it was him. It was this other writer, the woman who created Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw, was that her name? I think. And then the guy who wrote The Notebook, right? So think about it. It's like Arthur Miller, the woman from Sex and the City, the guy who wrote The Notebook. All successful writers, though, with people who are their fans. He had written this book of essays, and the line is out the door. I mean, it is out the door. It's at the Waldorf Astoria. It's around the corner, and I get up, and I'm dressed like I'm at a Red Sox, game.
Yeah.
And I come up and I'm like, hey man, and I realized, like, I had read his autobiography, and it's all annotated, notes in the margins, inspiring stuff, and really, long autobiography that, talks about the structure and his themes of drama and, philosophy on how to write. And I'm clutching this, and I had a first edition of Death of a Salesman. And I asked him, and I realized, I go up to him, and I'm like, hey man, your book meant a lot to me. And I realized, this dawns on me as I'm talking to him. I was like, this guy, since like Death of a Salesman was like 1947.
Right.
So basically, and he's married to Marilyn Monroe. And he's the most famous playwright, since Eugene O'Neill in America. Maybe Tennessee Williams is right there with him. Okay. So this guy, for basically the last 50 years, every day of his life, somebody's come up to him and said, hey man, you're great. You're awesome. and it's not that the guy was rude. He was just like
used to it. He was used to it.
It's like, okay, yep. I mean, he is there. He's signing books. He wants people to read his new books. He wants people to see his new play. He's not being dismissive or whatever. No. But I say, my wife is there, and I go, can I, would it be all right if I got a picture? He's behind like a folding table.
Right.
And he looks up at me because no one's asking him for a picture. He goes, he's probably 85 at this point. He's like, I got a lot of books to sign.
Do I have to?
He doesn't say no. He just goes, I got a lot of books to sign. So anyways, I go, my wife is like, just go over. And I go around, he's sitting there next to his table, and I lean down next to him, and I'm like I'm trying to squat down next to him. So I look like the cheerleader at the end of the cheerleading photo, and where there's two girls on the side, sort of like bent down.
Yeah, you're the
got their hands on their knees and took a shot. But I would have to say I was most impressed when I met him. I will say that I've worked with when I was in Sully, almost every movie star, like big star that I've met, that I've worked with, and I've worked with Eddie Murphy and Jeff Bridges and Tom Hanks and George Clooney, and just all really great. I mean, there's something about you obviously you hear stories about people, but these guys, Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, I've worked with all of them, and they, to a person, they want their stuff to be great. And so it only helps them if those of you who, those people that they're working with are comfortable. I will say that it was when I was doing Sully, and all of a sudden, like, Tom Hanks walks into the rehearsal room. He's just like, hey man, Tom. And you're just like, nice. It's weird. And then I had to interrogate him in that movie Sully, where I played a National Transportation Safety Board guy, and I was kind of like asking him questions, like saying, "Hey, people are like, you're mean to Sully." I'm like, I just asked him if he had a drink. Like, what if he had said yes? I'd had 5 drinks. Right. We would have solved the crime, right? We would have solved it. But he's just a really, really great guy.
That's got to be a good feeling for you, though, when you're dealing with these people, to not have to deal with any of the superfluous attitude that might come with being that big a star, right?
I think so. I think that what happens, though, is I realized this early on when I was, I think it was the summer of '99. I shot a movie called 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. And I realized, and she's a very grounded person, very real kind of, I would joke, like people say, oh, she's the girl next door. I was like, if she was the girl next door, no one would ever move away. But she's really cool, funny, good sense of humor. But the amount of energy that's coming to them, like everyone is just looking at them on the set, the extras, the background, everyone is totally aware. And I have to, I'm no scientist, but I have to think that at the end of the day, that kind of energy, those forces of energy and focus that people put on you, as intrusive as it can be, it has to be jarring to people.
Yeah, and it's probably something they obviously get used to. Obviously, Arthur Miller was used to being asked the questions.
Oh my God! I mean, Marilyn Monroe, exactly. But Mike, from talking to so many of these athletes, it's also hard because because you are a conduit between the famous and the revered and the fans, right? You're in the middle of that, and you're well known yourself. What happens is that people, they also they want to hear stories. They want to hear the bad stories, and I have to say, there's not a lot of them.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know, because you've worked with a lot of people. I want to ask you about some of them. By the way, the references to former guests on this podcast. Fred Lynn has been on this podcast. You mentioned him earlier. John Dennis
and Tom Hanks.
Tom
Hanks would be a great guest on this show. I mean, he's exactly what you think he'd be like.
You hook me up with that, and we'll do it here, Mike. We will.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll do it. But you've worked with a lot of, Julia Roberts, John Fiore, who's been a guest on this show, from The Sopranos. He worked with Julia Roberts in Mystic Pizza, like back in 1980, whatever it was.
Yes.
And he was telling me, I said, what was she like? He said, oh, she was real nice. He said, her ass was a lot bigger then.
He said, nice. Nice to mention that.
She toned it up a little bit after maybe it was the pizza down there. Maybe she had too much of that Mystic Pizza going on. But you worked at
so in his estimation, she's gotten better. I can only imagine what she'd say.
Fiore's a very funny bastard. I love him. You worked with Will Smith, right?
Yes, and Concussion. Great guy. Like,
he didn't slap you?
He didn't slap me. This guy, like, I'm telling you, man, like, this guy is the nicest superstar. Like, he's right. Like, the fact that this happened to this guy, like, I again, look, I think a lot of people, you're a wise guy, right? I'm sure you're a wise guy. When you were growing up, my father used to say, your mouth is going to get you in trouble one day. And he'd say it enough times that I'd be like, okay, I probably shouldn't say that thing at that time. Now, I think that you have to have a thick skin when you go to those award shows. And I've never been, I've been a part of things where, people have made fun of whatever, the result of how the show went or how things went or the thing that I was a part of. But I had thought when like Ricky Gervais started to do some of these shows and taking people down, I was like, I'd be terrified if I was him. I think somebody just like, Mel Gibson or somebody would just take a swing, like not care. And I remember watching the Oscars. I was watching with my son. We were like flipping through it. And he goes, hey, we were like fast forwarding. And it was like, hey, did somebody just get slapped? And I couldn't believe it. Were you watching that live?
Yeah. Then you go back and you do slow-mo. What happened? Exactly. Because
you thought it was weird. A bit. And you thought it was a bit.
Setup. Right.
But this guy, I'm telling you, Will Smith, he's like everyone, like that. Nobody has anything bad to say about this guy. He's such a nice guy.
Oh, that's good to hear. No, but it's got to be the feeling at those award shows where it's live and they're doing it, or live to tape, where watch out. It's like being on a roast show with Dean Martin or Don Rickles. When Don Rickles got up there, everybody went, uh-oh, because in the day, his stuff was pretty cutting edge when it came to ragging on people.
I know, but the roast, the stuff that they say, like when I heard about the Tom Brady roast, I was like, I wanted to be like, don't do that. Just don't. It's just
sacred ground.
Brady.
Yeah, it's sacred ground. You got to tread lightly. You worked with Jeff Bridges.
Great. I worked with Jeff Bridges. So there's a movie that we shot in Boston called The Rest in RIPD. It's the Rest in Peace Department. And Ryan Reynolds, also another great guy, and Jeff Bridges. And I played a guy who worked this is a great part for me. I played a guy who worked the Fenway scoreboard. And so that was with Kevin Bacon. And so check this out. So we shot this movie probably, I think this was like 2016 or 2017. And there was a very, very specific director and you can see this if you watch the movie. I don't know what it's streaming on, but R.I.P.D. Jeff Bridges is awesome. He's exactly what you think he'd be like. Again, Ryan Reynolds, another great guy. But I had to run from the top of the monster down to Lansdowne Street as a car is pulling up with Kevin Bacon in it, and the camera like turns right here. And I probably went up and down that thing like 25 times, and I got a torn meniscus. And I'm trying to not get cut out of the movie.
Oh, the steps on the side. You got to go over to center field and down, right? To get off.
Yeah, I had exactly, Mike. You know exactly what I'm coming down. I go down the steps. I got to race down. It's following me. They don't even use it in the movie.
How many takes? How many takes did they not use?
Like 25. I mean, I still haven't recovered. Like I'm probably going to need a stent from that thing. I did serious damage to my heart when I was just doing that.
Now, Mike, you're Irish. I'm guessing.
Yes, sir. 100% all the way back.
So I thought he was Icelandic.
I know. There are a lot of Icelandic guys with O's in front of their names.
Yeah.
So this Irish guy is sitting at the bar. This is a quick, short Irish joke that you can share with any of your Irish friends.
Okay.
Irish guy is sitting at the bar. The bartender walks by. He goes, "Sean Patrick, you got an empty glass there. Would you like another?" And he says, "And what in the fuck would I be needing another empty glass for?" It's just a quickie. Now, there's one guy you worked with I got to ask you about because I know everything about Jerry Van Dyke.
Oh my God. How do you know everything about Jerry Van Dyke?
Well, I watched My Mother the Car.
Yes.
Me and three other guys were the only people who ever watched that. It was Ann Southern did the voice of the night. A 1928 Porter, that's my mother dear. She helps me through everything I do, and I'm so glad she's here. My Mother the Car, starring Jerry Van Dyke, Dick Van Dyke, who's now like 100.
Yes.
Dick Van Dyke's brother, who had some guest appearances on that show. He also was Coach.
Yes.
In the series Coach, he had a part in that too. Tell me everything you can tell me about
Jerry Van Dyke. Jerry Van Dyke was hilarious. He played my father, and he probably played my father in like 15 episodes, if not more, of Yesteryear, but probably about 15. Mm-hmm. He could never remember his lines. So he would do this thing where every character he played had kind of a stutter, but it was only because he couldn't remember his lines. He did not have a stutter in real life.
He put it in.
Hilarious. And one of the things he did that there's a clip of it on Yesteryear where he did he would sing along to this part of his act was like singing along to these Stagecoach songs. I'll find it and I'll send it to you so you can link to it. But he was hilarious. He would come in. He had a great joie de vivre. He just always had fun. He was laughing. He always wanted to do more episodes. And we did an episode where he played minor league baseball in the story of the show with Frank Robinson and what is his name? Ernie Banks.
Ernie Banks.
Banks. And so Ernie Banks and Frank Robinson and Johnny Bench came and they shot an episode of Yesteryear. And Jerry Van Dyke and myself, my character Jimmy, we get into a fist fight with those three guys. And so
with Ferguson Jenkins and Ernie Banks?
No, it was Frank Robinson.
Oh, Frank Robinson.
Ernie Banks and Johnny Bench.
Right, okay.
So we're getting it. So we had a whole stunt. It was just, I mean, that was when sitcoms were fun, man. It's like, that was a show I did Yesteryear we did like 120 episodes and we're on Monday nights and you could just get, you could get these guest stars and they'd come play with you and it would just be fantastic.
Well, that was a terrific run you had there on that show.
It's a good show.
I got to ask you about Jerry Van Dyke played your father. You played the father of the gay character on Glee. What was that like for you? And how did you have to tread lightly around that topic during the show or while you were filming it?
Wow. Well, that's again another great question. That, believe it or not, I haven't been asked before because what was interesting about that is when I was reading the script, the character on Glee that I played, Bert Hummel, is he's a guy's guy. He's into football. He's a mechanic. He owns a garage. And his son at the end of the episode comes out. And the dad says, "I've known since you were 3." And And when I was reading the script, because as when the character first shows up, he gets kind of mad at his son because he comes down and he's dancing to a Beyonce song with a couple of girls. And when you go back and look at it, you can say part of the reason he was upset is because, like any dad, he came home from work and the music was being cranked downstairs and the kid was being selfish or what have you. When I was reading it, I thought, you know what? I don't really want to just go play another intolerant guy. Now, listen, there's a lot of work out there for characters of people who have not necessarily evolved their thinking. But then when I got through the rest of the script, the show was, that episode was co-written by a guy named Brad Falchuk, who's from Newton, Mass. Brad Falchuk and Ryan Murphy are business partners, writing partners, and they've had a lot of success making 911 and American Crime Story and American Horror Story, in addition to Glee, since Glee. And so he was a guy, like I think many, fathers, out there who have to change with the times because they love their kids most of all. And I'm sure you have listeners out there who wouldn't even have thought, when they were younger, that they would be faced with a situation where their kid is embracing a lifestyle that they don't understand. That's one of the things I think was difficult about that particular part, and that I thought showed a little bit of insight into it. I have 3 kids. I love my kids. It's very, very difficult when they go through their teen years where you feel as if you can't help them. You can't walk them through some of their trouble. And if you can and you anticipate some of it, they don't even want to necessarily hear that advice.
Right. Yeah, you're
and
right.
They want to have, I was talking with a friend the other day. It was like, yeah, experience is the best teacher for fucking idiots. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, right. Why shouldn't I jump out of that tree? There's a guy over there with his legs broken. Is that true? Yep. I'm the first guy to jump out of the tree. My legs are broken. I was an idiot.
I'm going to file that under things I can remember. It's like that expression, the old expression, which I'm very fond of as I get older. Young men think old men are fools, but old men know young men are fools.
Right.
I mean, it's,
so you're always anticipating. And so I think that the other thing is that, anyone who's a parent out there, they have the ideas of what they think that they're going to necessarily share with their kid. And oftentimes their children, they want to share some of those things, but they want to carve their own path. And so I think part of what the character that I played is like, okay, you're going to go off into this experience that I have no advice on how to. Now, he thought that I have no advice on how to help you navigate this world because I don't know anything about it. That being said, it's, I don't, this sounds very Catholic, very Christian, but it's just like, can you love? Can you be kind? Can you put yourself in someone else's shoes? Can you be somebody who thinks about, love and kindness? That's it. And if you expect that and want that from other people, can you give that to other people?
Well, as a Catholic former altar boy, I got kicked off the altar by Father Delaney because my hair was too long. It was 1960s. It was about the year you were born. I was about 11, 12. And the priest said to me, he goes, and I'm all getting dressed up to do the mass, and he says, you can't come back on this altar till you get a haircut. And I said to him, because I'm a wise ass, I said, Jesus had long hair. And he said, blaspheme. And he kicked me off the altar. He said, I can never come back as an altar boy. Now my mom is out in the congregation where she thought I must have died or something because I wasn't out there. So after the mass, she goes, what happened? I said, Father Delaney says I can't be an altar boy because my hair's too long. And my mother, God bless her, she said, you don't have to go to this church anymore. Oh,
I love it.
My thought with the Catholic thing was like, okay, we can't eat meat on Friday. In the early days of that, you can't have. So I go to hell. I die. I go to hell. I'm sitting next to Adolf Hitler. And I said, well, what'd you do? He says, well, I killed 7 million Jews. What'd you do? I said, I had a cheeseburger. I'm thinking, this isn't right. There's something wrong with this. But
this is always the thing. I wrote a scene once where this character is having he's had a crisis of faith, and he says, and he turns to the priest, is like, so what if Hitler says I'm sorry, like right before he shoots himself, he gets in? And the priest just goes, always with the Hitler, always the Hitler, it's always Hitler. It's always like Hitler is just the trump card for everything. I can't.
And Trump is the cards getting played every time he talks about him now that hates him. He's Hitler now. All of a sudden, I want to ask you. I want to, if you've done so many things, you've met so many people, you've been involved in so many different tremendous activities that are fun around the world. If I name these three things that I've done that I think that Mike O'Malley hasn't done, would you have to answer for that? Okay.
Okay, you got it.
Have you ever jumped on a pogo stick 1,000 times without falling off?
1,000 times.
1,000 times more than
I have not. I have. By the way, I think that was becoming popular when Happy Days was on again. And no, I did not hit 1,000. I don't even think I hit 100.
I met the mother on Happy Days. She was very nice.
Marion Ross.
Marion Ross. She was at Bob Wolf's get together. Larry. It was a great party. Larry Bird was there, and Marion Ross. She was so sweet. Anyway,
where's Larry Bird, Mike? How come he doesn't come around to the Celtics stuff anymore? Is it because he still works for the Pacers?
Well, he's putting in driveways out in Indiana for his mom. Wow. Have you ever seen Elvis perform live? Well, you couldn't have, because when he died in 1976, you were 10.
I have not seen Elvis perform live. However, I was in the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat,
with Donny Osmond,
the character who was based on Elvis.
Oh, was Donny Osmond in that?
Well, no, I did this at the University of Hampshire. I didn't do it on Broadway.
He did it,
bro. Vegas.
Okay.
I wasn't that good.
I saw him at Fenway, and I asked him speaking of the Arthur Miller question. I got getting in the elevator at Fenway, and there's Donny Osmond. I said, "Oh, hey, how's Marie?" And I'm thinking, what an asshole I am. It's like that. Like, everybody doesn't ask him the same thing. He says, "Oh, she's fine." He was nice. One more thing that I've done that you've never done. I don't know this is true. Okay. Did you ever have to guard Doug Flutie in a basketball game?
No, but Doug Flutie, 40th anniversary of his pass.
Hail Mary
the other day. I have not had to go. What were you playing that? I know he used to play pickup basketball at BC quite a bit.
No, it was a charity for cancer research or something, and it was at Brandeis, and I'm guarding Doug Flutie. It was the media against the athletes, and we looked like such idiots.
How was he? He's a pretty good athlete.
He's unbelievable really at basketball. So it was Mark the Bird Fidrich and him and Doug, Steve Grogan, and all these guys against us fat ass, media trolls. And the ball got loose, and I tackled Fidrich. I grabbed his leg because he was going for the loose ball, and then we get down the other end of the court, and Flutie's dribbling. He's looking at me. He goes, "I saw you grab the Bird's leg." I go, "Yeah, so?" And he dribbles around me and just easy bucket. He was unbelievable. He was going to have a full basketball scholarship, but they gave him the football one instead because he was so good at both sports.
Wait, he was going to play basketball at BC?
Yeah. But they just said, you know what? Why don't you try being a quarterback? He was too short for that.
Who's that guy? The guy, there's the guy. He's a guy from Arlington, Mass, who played at Notre Dame. He's McConaughey, right? Is that his name? He's the guy. He plays on Milwaukee.
I know who you're talking about. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'll get it.
Yeah, you guys should have him on the podcast.
Mike O'Malley, you started in a lot of comedic situations, and we have a lot of common friends like Lenny and Tony.
Lenny.
Did you know Kevin Meaney?
I didn't know Kevin, but Anthony Clark, who went to Emerson and who I co-starred on Yesteryear with, he would talk about Kevin Meaney as one of the funniest comedians he had ever seen live. And of course, I know Kevin. I mean, that famous "We Are the World."
Oh yeah.
I mean,
That's not right.
Just when he's imitating his mother, it's not right.
I know. He came on my show. We were live, of course. He was drunk, and he was hilarious. And he was sliding off the chair onto the floor. He's singing, "I don't care, I don't care." And I'm doing this live TV show, and he's on the floor. And I don't know what am I going to do with this guy?
Pat Connaughton.
We just watched his special, the one I think was down in New Orleans that he did. It was like he's on a riverboat. It starts with him on a riverboat, and he's singing, and he's hilarious.
He was a complete nut. After the show, he goes, Do you have any pot? They said, who do you think you're talking to here? Yeah, of course. Anyway, the comedians we've had on the program here and in general are great folks, and as are you, my friend Mike O'Malley, who actually, it's so funny when I texted you about 8 months ago. I said, and you were too busy doing something.
We were doing that show with Lenny that's no longer on the air. It was based on the life of Wick Grousbeck. Another great guy.
Extended family,
yes.
Which I watched. It was great. The episodes where you were talking about the Irish people in Boston throwing up, that was tremendous.
Oh my God, I got to send you. I'm going to send you the song because my brother wrote a song. It was like they just like when you're Irish, people can go out there. You're gonna have another drink there, are you, sonny boy? Like, can you imagine like doing it to any other ethnicity? It's like, Michael, how are you doing now, sir? Oh, you're gonna have another Guinness now, are you? You're drunk.
Exactly. Hey, St. Patrick's Day. Play me another Irish song. Play the one that goes doodly doodly dee, because I hate that one that goes deedly deedly doo.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a song that my brother Liam O'Malley wrote called "Get Your Irish Up," and basically it's a song that, in the context of the show, was a bunch of people who weren't Irish tried to write the quintessential Irish drinking song, and it just starts off, "Oh, whiskey, 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 tura lura lay. It's how it's how I end the evening and how I start the day."
You could seriously write that only under the influence of alcohol, though. And
yes.
Now we have a song. By the way, we close out every single podcast with a tribute song from. We have what we call Castiglioke, and it's Joe and Jerry, and we sing tribute songs to our esteemed guests, of which you are one, and we're happy to have had you on the show, Mike. And we're going to send you that cake. But best of luck to you and everything you do. The best to the family. And I want you to listen if you can. If you got time here, Tim can hear that. I'm sure he can hear this, right, guys? Technically. Ready? Thank you, Mike. Okay, troop, let's do a little song for Mike O'Malley. He's on the horn right now. He's from Nashua, New Hampshire, I did not know that, Joe. Nashua, yeah. I know you got a lot to do, and wanting you to come and stay with us is cool. I know you got somewhere to go, Mike. Make yourself at home and stay a while. And don't you ever leave. Mike O'Malley, come on, join our show. Don't you think you need someone to talk to? Mike O'Malley, can you believe it? No need to leave so soon. I've been trying all night long just to talk to you. It's actually been 8 months I've been trying to talk to Mike O'Malley. He's a busy guy. Well, some of us have a gig, Joe. Then again, some of us don't. That hurts. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all we got.
I don't know. I got places to be, people to see. And so does Mike O'Malley. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, let's do this again. It's great to talk to you. It's good to see you. When I come to Boston, I'll come see my son. We'll have a bite to eat.
Sounds good, bud.
You,
thank you.
All right, thanks, man.
Mike O'Malley, everybody.
Bye.